Hey, what's up, everyone? Long time no see. Can you grow vegetables in your basement in Utah in the winter? Well, I'm almost finished setting up a hydroponics system in my basement, so we're gonna find out. Let's check it out. Okay, everyone, so as you may or may not know, I live in Utah, Salt Lake City. We get a lot of snow here, but we also have water scarcity because we're technically a high desert. So every year, every summer, we talk about how we're having droughts, low water levels, you can't water your lawns, the whole thing. We also have a lot of large families here. There's a religious kind of order here that headquarters here in Salt Lake City, and they typically have a lot of kids. So you have a lot of big families, big grocery bills, you have water scarcity issues. And so I thought to myself, what if I could grow vegetables in my basement hydroponically, even in the wintertime? Wouldn't that be a really cool thing? Fits on so many things too that we deal with out here in Utah and really across America. So we deal with water scarcity because it's a good use of water. Ideally, we could do it in a footprint that most people have in their home, which this is a pretty small footprint. And I have 54 plants that I could grow on this kind of a setup that I have set up here. And actually also got this from a picture I saw online of a system like this in China that I saw in rural China. But it's also very cheap to build. Now, I know there's a lot of store-bought, a lot of companies that you can order online where you can order hydroponic systems that grow vertically and have all these cool designs and all that stuff. A lot of those that I saw can only grow certain types of plants, like they can't be too bulky or they have to be a certain size, like small to medium. I've also seen where there's a lot of proprietary things that go into those systems, meaning like the grow material, the medium, as they say, the baskets, the food, like the way you put it in there, even the parts for those systems have to come from that company. So if they go out of business, something happens, they lose their funding, maybe you don't exist anymore, and it's hard for you to work on your system. So my thought was that I should be able to build something in my basement with stuff I can get online or at Home Depot, and that's what I've done. Okay, so for the materials, like I said, everything I really got online, Amazon or direct from the manufacturer or from Home Depot. Some of the things, like so the PVC, even though it looks like a pretty simple PVC kind of setup, there are some complications with this thing. So all in all, I used 1-inch PVC pipe and I use a 10-inch PVC kind of pipes for where the plants are going to be planted. My 10-inch pipes here are the high pressure kind. There might be some cheaper, thinner ones that you can get. In reality, you could probably use the stuff that's cheap as you can find, because there won't be high pressure water running through here. It's going to be flowing water through the pump, kind of an ebb and flow, kind of ebb and drain kind of a thing going on in here. So you really don't need pressurized anything. These end caps are pretty hard to find. I'll put links to everything where I got everything, but I got these from Charlotte Pipe Supply or something like that. Direct from the manufacturer, pretty expensive. This is probably the most expensive part of the whole thing in general. And in reality, Home Depot sells these flat ones that are low pressure, that are just caps that you can probably use instead. It would be easier to even drill little end caps into. Drilling into these round kind of domes was a pain in the ass and a little bit hectic. And I went through a couple of different bits trying to get it because they're really, really hard for that high pressure stuff. Don't really need that. Bought a bucket of elbows from Home Depot and a couple of ball valve joints as well. You can kind of see one here on the end. I have a ball valve set up. I'll have a ball valve set up down here as well for where the excess water or the water drains out into my reservoir. But I didn't use PVC cement on any of the joints. I was originally going to do that, at least for the frame. But what I found is that once you stick them in there pretty good and the weight of the thing's on it, as long as you're not moving it laterally side to side, nothing really comes apart. I may just seal it with silicone, which is what I'm going to do for all my end pieces and anything that's going to be in contact with water. I have 100% non-toxic waterproof silicone that I'm using, and I find that gives a little bit of give to be able to wiggle around some of the pipes, and some of the measurements are not exact to what you need them to be, and there's going to be little adjustments I'm going to want to make for elevation and make sure the water flows right, and it seems like the silicone gives me just enough give to do that. We have an air pump. It's also going to aerate the water in our 55-gallon Home Depot containers. We chose Home Depot containers, one, because they're pretty big, pretty cheap. These are the ones that are black with the yellow tops on them. We have 55-gallon ones here because, again, I have 54 plants total that I can put on here. And for certain medium-sized leafy kind of greens and cabbages and bok choys, you need a pretty good amount of water for each one of those plants. So I also got an aeration stone as well. And we're going to aerate these things. The reason why you want to aerate the water, at least from what I've researched, is that it helps prevent root rot. And most of your plants actually breathe oxygen through the water, through their roots like that. So we're going to make sure we do that, cover it up so there's no growth, and then keep this kind of a closed loop circulating system with all my plant food going into this reservoir as well. The pump that I'm using, instead of using an aquarium type of pump, I got more of a landscaping type of pump. It's still pretty small, but what it's usually used for is to pump water uphill into waterfalls for like those water effects and those koi ponds and stuff like that. And the reason why I did that, so I wanted to make sure I had a pump that can get enough volume to fill all the stuff up, but still make it go uphill high enough to where I could have enough water come flow through this. So the pump I have, I think, can go 6 to 8 feet in elevation vertically at the same volume, and I can have a timer on it. So we're going to have a timer to see how long it takes to fill up everything, make sure it can flow high enough to get in here, and then we're going to time the pump to see how many times I need it to fill and drain throughout the day to have a healthy plant. Our growing medium for everything we're going to put in here obviously is going to go in these 2-inch holes. So I have 10-inch pipe with 2-inch holes cut into here, and we have 2-inch net pots that we're using. Got these on Amazon, pretty easy to find. A lot of people will get this foam kind of insert or like a cocoa core, kind of a hard like brick to put in there, and those are kind of not reusable. So what I want to do, again, I want to have things that are totally reusable if possible. So what I did instead, if my growing medium is going to go into here, we're going to put clay pebbles in here that we can actually reuse, sanitize and reuse over and over again. Might be a little bit hard to start with seeds and certain sproutings on those from what I've heard, these kind of ebb and flow systems. We're going to try it to see if we can, one, keep the cost low and have it all kind of renewable. With 9 plants per tube, it's going to be a lot of roots in here, so I expect that's going to help with some of the flow and make sure the water doesn't flow through the pipes too fast either. Okay, so what are some of the things that maybe didn't go to plan, or as I'm kind of just like sketching it in my head and trying to build it from a picture, what are some things that maybe we didn't get right or I'm still working on? Well, one of those things is the height of this whole thing, to be frank. So initially it was going to be like 90-something plants. I had 3 rows of 3 10-inch pipes, and wanting to build this on PVC, which means you don't have to have any kind of woodworking kind of knowledge or skill or anything like that. It's kind of like just putting together an erector set. I was worried about the weight of the pipes with 3 of them, and then also if you have plants that, let's say, generally need 18 or 19, 20 inches of kind of space between where their roots are and kind of where they can grow and the grow lights are going to be, we're going to have our full spectrum LED kind of lights be kind of installed here, so that way the plants can have plenty of room to grow but also have light. Because how do you make sure that it's not going to be too tall, where you can actually get to all the plants and it not be too heavy? That is, I had to reduce the total number of plants. So this is why we have 54. The other thing was that I was trying to determine like how much of a footprint that I need to have. Can I just have it in this footprint and have my water tank underneath this thing? That was a pretty cool idea, and maybe we could still make it happen if we don't need a 55-gallon reservoir, depending on the plants we're using. But having to swap out these legs all the time was kind of a pain in the A as well. I thought I had it right, and then when I bought my Home Depot jugs, I had it like 2 inches off, and so I was like 2 inches too low. So we probably swapped out the bottom legs of these a few times, and it's actually the reason why they're somewhat rudimentary without cross beams on the very bottom, was to make it a lot easier to keep swapping them out, because we probably adjusted the height of the bottom row of this probably 3 times. And we probably did 2 different iterations of 3 layers versus 2 layers to see if we could actually make it work with more plants. This is about 6 feet in height, maybe 5'10", 6 feet, something like that in height. So not too tall, fit into most houses, but this is probably about the most you'd want to go. The other thing that really, really kind of pisses me off still, and I'm trying to find a replacement for it, is this stuff. This stuff right here, and you'll see it here in my kind of setup. It's the foam blocks right between my 10-inch pipes. Now, I didn't want to drill or kind of carve a saddle into my PVC. I thought it would kind of degrade the integrity that the pipe is going to be holding up this stuff. But the pipes would roll on that. My 10-inch pipes would roll. And I knew that I could get some stability by putting in my little manifolds here on the sides, but I didn't want those to be the only thing kind of holding these from rolling. So I thought, okay, I'll put some foam blocks in between and get them to wedge between the edges of these poles and kind of just really kind of fit in there really snug. And so the idea was we get this wet foam brick that you use in like flower arrangements and stuff like that. But I'll show you in some footage here, but this stuff has like this green dust all over and it kind of gets everywhere, and it got all over the pipes and everything, and it still just continuously falls off. So stay tuned. We're going to have probably some furniture foam or something. This right here is kind of the pain in the butt. Still have to replace this. So where does this leave us right now? We're at the leak check part, but we also have some technical issues with the water. So I live here in Utah. Utah has beautiful mountains. We actually have two places here. We have one place that it's against those beautiful mountains you see in a backdrop of most postcards, Salt Lake City. I have great purified water there. Then I have this other place that I'm in today, right now, that's on the other side of the valley, diagonally across the valley against the Ochre Mountains, where we have harder water and it's worse for the plants. So I'm actually going to ferry over water, 6 gallons or so at a time, because I have some potable water jugs I'm going to use, and try to fill up my 55 gallons so I can use it for the leak check for this, and then also use that same water that I use for the leak check for the plants themselves. I may end up sealing up every single seam with silicone, but I may also just see what's leaking and what actually needs the sealant, and maybe try to minimize how much of that sealant that I use. Certainly the 10-inch pipe, you're going to get it. So between now and the next video, I'm going to be ferrying over about 55 gallons of water or so and get this leak check done. But don't worry, you can see it all in the next video. See exactly how much is leaking. Did I really have to seal up all this stuff? That could be a pretty arduous task. I don't know, but we'll see. And I'll make sure I record it all for you guys. Check it out in the next video. You'll see how much leaking we're doing, and then we'll start germinating our seeds. See you in the next video.